Welcome to Never Too Late to Dream, the podcast for anyone who's ever shelved a dream, talked themselves out of one, or let fear, doubt, or life itself get in the way. Every episode, I'll be talking to real people, late bloomers, slow burners, and plot twisters who dared to pursue their dreams later than supposed to. We're talking about the messy middle, the wobbles, the moments of what the hell am I doing, and the extraordinary things that happen when you keep going anyway. Because here's the thing, there's no expiry date on a dream. The world's full of people who found their groove in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. And they've got stories worth hearing. Each guest will share their dream, what stopped them, how they got unstuck, and what they'd say to anyone still waiting in the wings. And I'll also be asking everyone what their dream's theme song is, because every good story deserves a soundtrack, doesn't it? Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Never Too Late to Dream. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Maria Newman. Maria is a coach who helps her clients overcome challenges in their lives so they move from feeling overwhelmed and overlooked to confident, fulfilled and thriving. What a great introduction there, Maria. Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here on your new show.
Well, great to have you, Maria. So before we get into my questions about your dream, can you just tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what you do?
Well, what I do has evolved over time because I took the typical route of education, university, and get a good job so that I could fund life, because we know that life is not free. However, there came a point in my life when I was pregnant with my second child that I thought, this is just not where I want to be. I want to be doing something different. And I went to see a life coach. She's amazing. Her name is Duckworth. And she asked me a really important question, which was, what do you really want to do in life, Maria? And I was like, wow, I really want to have my own business. And at that point, I had no idea what it was. However, I went on a little journey, and I hate that word, but it describes the process. And eventually I got to where I am today, which is helping professionals and business owners to become unstuck. And their unstuckness is usually tied up in their mindset, because the one thing that will always stand in our way is ourselves. And we're standing in our way because of the stories that we're telling ourselves, the beliefs that we are holding on to, and the fear of doing what we really want to do.
That's a real great link to the book that I wrote, actually. You have a lot of those issues I do talk about in my book. But this isn't about me. So tell us a little bit more about your dream and why you wanted to do it.
So it's really funny, because if you would have asked me that question probably when I was in my teens, it would have been the last thing on my mind. So my dream, having gone through corporate, was to start my own business. However, when I was younger, my mum and dad had their own business, so I could see with my own eyes and through experience how difficult it can be to run your own business. They had a very successful seaside restaurant, which means long hours, physical effort, as well as obviously mental effort. And being in that industry in particular means that you have to sacrifice a lot. So it's ironic, I don't know, funny to think that during my younger years, my childhood and up until early adulthood, being a business owner was not at the forefront of my mind. I liked the idea of working for someone else, knowing I could do a Monday to Friday job, 9 to 5-ish. There was the security of a steady salary. That seemed ideal to me. And yet it wasn't where I ended up heading. And it's funny because I remember really clearly when I first joined Rolls Royce, which was the company I worked for all of my career. I was an intern and I was doing a year in recruitment. And I was in the car with a very senior manager driving to Uxbridge University to recruit other interns. And obviously, you know, at that age, I was a keen bean. And I said to him, so Terry Shaw was his name, how did you get to where you are today? And he basically said to me, well, I started as an apprentice. I then got a graduate job. Before I knew it, I was a manager. I got married. We had some children. And, well, now the pension is too good to leave. And I thought, crikey, oh, my word, that sounds like a prison sentence, not something that I necessarily want to aspire to. So I made a promise to myself there and then that I would only ever stay in a company for 5 years and I'd move on, because I didn't want to create that ball and chain that he seemed to have created for himself. Well, Caroline, it didn't quite go that way, because I then got offered a graduate job by Rolls Royce, and before I knew it, 5 years had passed, and I kept on telling myself, oh, the time's not right, you know, I don't know enough, I haven't got enough experience, I need more qualifications. Then 10 years passed, then 15 years passed, and I was in danger of becoming the person I didn't want to be. So when redundancy came around, which was in 2016, and I was on mat leave with my son, as I said earlier, my daughter at the time was just over 2. My son was months old. And I sort of said to my husband, I'm going to leave. To which he was horrified. This is a secure job. Why do you want to leave? And I was like, well, you've worked for other companies before. All I know is Rolls Royce. I want to experience other things. So, you know, we came to an agreement. Everything was all right in the household. Fortunately, I had a voluntary redundancy that acted as a cushion. And as I said earlier, I thought this is a great opportunity for me to really decide what I want to do now that I'm grown up, rather than, you know, just follow a pattern of what happens next. So I went to see Anna, my life coach, and that question she asked me, what do you want to do next? In a bizarre way, the answer that came out of my mouth shocked me, because like I said to you, you know, early childhood into early adulthood, that was the last thing on my mind. You know, what crazy thing, you've experienced it and you know how difficult it is, and yet you're going to jump into the fire. Bonkers. So with her support, I started my first business, which was called Fill That Space, and it was promoting local Bristol artists. And I loved the freedom that being a business owner gave me, and all the wonderful people that I had the opportunity to meet. And yet something still wasn't quite right. Something didn't feel like I was on the right path. And yet I knew I had this dream that I wanted to help people. So Fill That Space was about helping artists. Artists aren't the people that I'm supposed to be helping. And again, after then seeking some more expert advice, I decided that I wanted to help people like me who were feeling stuck, who didn't know what was next. They just knew that where they were wasn't the place that they wanted to be. So I poured my heart and soul into creating this wonderful online course, because my focus was towards mums at that time. And as mums, you know, our time isn't our own. We need to be able to catch bits of time to work on ourselves when the opportunity presents itself. So I lovingly created this online course so that women could access it whenever they wanted to, and they had the guidance they needed to become unstuck. Well, I released it into the world, Caroline, in early 2020. And I don't know whether you've seen the film Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, where he is told, build it and they will come.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, he built it. They came. I published it and I got tumbleweeds. So, this dream of being a business owner started on very shaky ground. And then, remember I said it was 2020, we went into lockdown. So I'm thinking, oh my word, not only have I got no business, we're now in lockdown where everybody's frightened because they don't know what's happening from one day to the next. What am I going to do? I need to generate an income because although, I'm in a stable relationship, I still need to contribute to what's going on in our household. And fortunately, I was podcasting at the time. And I thought, that's it. I'm just going to teach people how to podcast. I know people want to podcast. I'm going to teach people how to podcast. I do it. It's really easy. And I think people think it's difficult, and yet it's not. So I decided to set up 1 hour interactive workshops where within the hour, people could learn how to podcast. And you know what? It worked. I was really surprised. And that started me on this road of becoming a business owner and continuing on this journey of evolution where you start with an idea, a little seed, and you think you know what the seed is going to grow into, and you don't actually know what the seed will become until you water it and you look after it and it blossoms. Yeah. So that took me on this roller coaster of a ride that I've been on for, oh my word, since 2017 to actually get to a point where I am a business owner, I am running a business, and yet it looks nothing like the seed I thought I planted. So today, I'm coaching both professionals and business owners rather than focusing on mums. And I also run my own network called YaaMas Networking, which is amazing. It's like my pride and joy. And I've gone from, oh my word, the politics of working in corporate where I didn't feel like I could genuinely be myself to showing up as me, nearly warts and all, and having what I think a lot of people strive for, which is freedom. And that is freedom to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. So, yes, I am living the dream, or the dream that I wanted to live.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, we've got a very similar dream, actually. This is exactly what I talk about in the first episode of this podcast. And having the freedom, like you said, is so important. But what do you think is the main thing that stopped you in the beginning from actually going for this dream?
It was the experience of living my parents' dream. My dad in particular, well, as well as my mum, he'd sort of get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and when it was peak season, he might not go to bed until 11 o'clock. And this is 7 days a week. And fortunately, we lived in the flat above the restaurant. Otherwise, other than when we were physically working together, which didn't happen obviously until we got older-ish, we wouldn't have seen each other. And, my summer holidays from, I don't know, about 10 were, my experiences, it was all about working in the restaurant. And we were fortunate enough to go on holiday, but as a family time was quite limited. Now, don't get me wrong, I had a brilliant childhood.
Yeah.
And knowing that world didn't encourage me or inspire me to set up my own business, because I was thinking, what quality of life do I want? What experience do I want when I get married and have children? And I didn't want what I'd experienced. So the biggest hurdle for me actually coming around to starting my own business was based on the experience I'd already had, which is having to give up stuff, and I wasn't willing to give up anything.
Yeah. So how did you get unstuck? What did you do differently from what your parents did to make sure that you did get what you wanted?
This is a phrase that we hear a lot, and whenever I use it, I can see the eye rolls. It's all about boundaries, deciding how you want to live your life and sticking very much to those boundaries. And that's not about building like a brick wall between you and everything else. It's about going, right, okay, then how do I want life to be like? What does it look like? And one of the biggest things I did was, I think it was probably about 4 years ago now, it takes a while to get into this habit of being a business owner versus being an employed person, which is completely different. As a business owner, you don't have to work every single hour just because there's lots of hours available. And we were still putting our children into holiday club as an example. And I could see their faces when we would drop them off. Not so much their faces, they also, the odd tantrum would be thrown. And I was thinking, I think my daughter was in year 5 when I stopped. So my son would have been in year 2. They just weren't happy. And there's only so long that they'll want to have you in their lives continuously before, they then find their friends. Like now, my daughter since probably year 6.
That's
so
true, yeah.
They have their own friends and they don't necessarily want to spend as much time with you. And I was thinking, I'm putting them in holiday club. They're happy when they're there, but the drop off sometimes can be a bit awkward and not very pleasant. And they're young. What am I going to miss? I'm in danger of actually missing what I said I didn't want to miss. So one of the things I put in place was to only work during term times. And it hasn't affected my business because people know I only work term times.
Yeah, you're very strict on that, aren't you?
Yeah. So it is about, and it's, if you want something enough, you will put in place the necessary to ensure that it happens. And I want to spend time with my kids. I'm one of those odd parents that when it comes to the 6-week holiday, I don't go, oh my word, it's the 6-week holiday. What am I going to do with my children? And I think this is probably because of my project management background. We sit down and I already say to them, this is what an average week will look like, as in the type of activity. And then I say to them, right, what's the detail behind it? So they are part of it. And it's I was going to say compromise, but that makes it sound really negative. So yeah, it is all about boundaries. And don't get me wrong, I didn't go, oh, I'm a business owner now, let's put the boundaries in place. It took me a while to go, oh, right, okay, then. So I need to put some boundaries in place. Yeah. I know what it looks like and how I want working life to feel. Because literally, I was getting up in the morning and thinking, okay, so how long can I work? And to start with, I wasn't even having a lunch break because when I was employed, I didn't really have a lunch break. I might sit at my desk and have my lunch or maybe not have lunch. And actually, one of the things is it was thanks to my husband I started having lunch. So it's all about boundaries. How do you want life to look? And you know if it's right because it feels right.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there any advice you would give your younger self?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably loads of advice. Well, it's funny because you're where you're meant to be. So I wouldn't want to give my younger self any advice that would necessarily change the trajectory because it would change where I am today. So I think what I would say to my younger self is just keep doing what feels right and it'll all turn out well.
Yeah.
Because I think what we look for is reassurance. Because as human beings, we don't like uncertainty. So we plug the gaps of uncertainty with assumptions. And usually our assumptions are more weighted towards negativity because, it's all about survival in this human world. So if we look at the negative points and we've got those all covered, anything else that's positive is a bonus. So, that's the piece of advice I would give my younger self.
So with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything you think you'd do differently?
Oh, crikey. Would I do anything differently? I do you know what? I often reflect just to see how far I've come. And would I do anything differently? And the thing is, all of my experiences have led to this point. So, for example, if I hadn't started Fill That Space, if somehow I knew that coaching was the route I needed to go to straight away, there's quite a few people I've connected with previous to coaching that I would no longer necessarily know and wouldn't have given me advice so that I am where I am today. So I don't know. That's really, I want to say no. I wouldn't have done anything differently. I mean, there's probably things like being more assertive and being confident. I'll tell you, actually, there is one thing that I definitely would change now, having thought about it. And that's not what I have done. It's who I was at the time. So I think a typical trap of people who go from being employed to being business owners fall into is we assume that because we're now a business owner, we're starting from zero. We know nothing because we're a business owner. We've never been a business owner before. How can we know anything? And I literally would turn up to networking meetings with that, oh, well, I'm a newbie. I know nothing. Please teach me.
Yeah.
When actually, I'd had a really successful 17-year career in corporate and I had loads of skills that I obviously still have today. So I wasn't starting from zero. I may have been walking into being a business owner for the first time. However, I was bringing a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of skills with me. So I think the one thing that I definitely would have done differently is that mindset. What we were talking about right at the beginning. It's all about your mindset. So going into any situation thinking this might be new, and yet if I look at what I've done and what I've gone through in the past, I'm bound to have something that I can bring with me that gives me that feeling of this is not the first time. And I do have a part to play here.
Yeah, that is so true of I think the majority of business owners, and myself included, because I did exactly the same thing. I had all this experience and all these skills, but I didn't think of it that way when I started my business, and it's just so true what you said.
Yeah.
What would you say success means for you?
Oh, that is definitely a great question. If you would have asked me that 5 years ago, on an unconscious level, I would have thought it was to do with money, because in a traditional sense, we look at people who have lots of money and go, oh my word, they must be really successful. They're generating all this revenue. They've got lots of clients. They are successful. And I was out for a walk today and I was thinking, I am successful right now because I get to choose. Every morning when I wake up, I get to choose what my day looks like. I'm not forced to make decisions because I need to bring in a certain amount of money, or I need to do a certain thing, or I need to appease a certain person. Every morning when I get up, my day is shaped by the choices that I make, and I am free to make those choices which is I'm very grateful to be in that position. And so that's what success means to me. The fact that I get to choose, Carolyn, I get to choose. And I think we all aspire to be in a position where we're not chasing something because we need more money, we need the validation of other people, we need to appease someone. It's, it's a really liberating place to be. And if I could go back to my younger self, I wouldn't necessarily tell them how good life is now. Like I said earlier, that's why I tell them, just keep doing your thing and all will be well. And don't get me wrong, let me just, throw into that. I do have days that are challenging. I do have days where life throws me a curveball, and because it's, it's easy for me to paint this picture of, everything's rosy. I just glide through life. I still am a human being. Stuff still happens in my life. And at the same time, I'm really grateful because every day when I wake up, I get to choose.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you see yourself in the future? Do you have any new dreams that you'd like to pursue?
Oh, my word, yeah, we have one massive dream between us. So when the children are adults and they no longer need us, we want to buy a beautiful house in the countryside that has lovely outdoor space. If we're lucky enough, maybe a mini woodland, maybe a stream, a nice house that is a home, a beautiful kitchen. Oh, I love cooking, Carolyn. So the kitchen, I don't know what it looks like. All I know is I want this like cottagey type feel to my kitchen. I look at stuff on TikTok, which is all straight lines and very modern. And that's the opposite end of what I'm looking for. I want something that looks like this kitchen has been used. Still nice and clean and tidy, but this kitchen is a kitchen that feeds people with love. And we want to build. We were going to build
kitchen,
proper working kitchen. But we're looking to find a house that we can turn into our dream house where we can retire. And then if we're blessed, our children will grow up and maybe have children of their own. So we'll have grandchildren. So that's the next dream.
I like the sound of your dream, Maria.
Thanks.
That's great. So what would you say to somebody who's put their dream on the back burner?
What are you waiting for? It's really easy to put it on the back burner and go, maybe tomorrow. You don't know whether tomorrow is ever going to come. And especially if you're not feeling happy, happiness is a state. And like I said, I get to choose every morning when I wake up. You get to choose to be happy, because the one thing that nobody else has control over is what goes on in your mind. And there's a great book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. And in it, through his, so he was in a concentration camp, and he talks about his experience in the concentration camp and the difference between the individuals who survived their experience versus those that didn't. And the one thing we all have control over that nobody else actually has control over is what goes on in your mind. And that is so powerful, because those stories that you tell yourself, those beliefs that we have, the voice that's in your head, that will determine what your external world looks like. So those people who have put their dreams on the back burner will probably have stories in their mind of, you haven't got enough money yet. Oh, the time isn't right. Oh, you're not ready for it. They're just stories. They're not real. It's not reality. It's like I said earlier, if you really want something, you will make it happen. If it's on the back burner, is it really a dream? Do you really want it? Why wait? If it's your dream, you can make it happen. And that doesn't mean that, say, if your dream is to have your own business, it doesn't mean you go into your current job and hand in your resignation. You can always build your dream alongside your current work. And when the time is right, swap over. It's that simple. Everybody's going to be saying, Maria, it's not that simple. No, it is. It might not be easy, but it is
exactly
simple.
what I did.
well, there you go. Carolyn did it, everybody. So
it was only after I'd made the mistake of leaving the job without any backup plan. So the second time round, I did it.
There you go. You learn.
I normally ask this question earlier on, and I've missed it. So I have to ask it because I am a huge music lover. And it's kind of the theme that runs through my book as well. So if your dream had a theme song, what would it be and why?
So it would be Freedom by George Michael. So hopefully that doesn't come as a surprise.
That's the same song as mine.
Is it? There you go. So the lyrics say it all. The lyrics, from how I read and interpret the lyrics, are, he started off being this person that everybody thought he should be. And then he was like, not anymore. I'm going to be me. And that's what this dream is all about. I've gone from saying yes to the man to saying yes to me. So it's that simple.
Brilliant. Love that. And I love that we've got the same theme song as well.
It's amazing.
And the same dream, actually.
Yeah. We are matched.
Brilliant. We are definitely matched. So my final question, how can listeners find out more about you and what you do? What's the best way?
So I'm really active on LinkedIn mainly. If you type in Maria Newman, you will find me. Otherwise, you can come and search my webpage, which is www.mummyonabreak.co.uk. And just drop me a message. Let's start a conversation.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was a great conversation. And I love that fact that we're so aligned with our dream and also our theme song. So that's the end of episode 3 of Never Too Late to Dream. If you love that conversation, please subscribe, follow, like and share. You know the drill. And hopefully we will have another great episode. Next time we've got Keith Blakemore Noble coming on for episode 4. So, catch us then. And remember, it's never too late to dream. It really isn't.